Hello everybody and welcome back to another video in our segment called Just Game Dev Things. Yes, that is a thing, believe it or not, and if you haven't checked out the first video in this little series, go ahead and check it out. It's called Think Like a Game Developer, where I just talk about some of the general things that I have so far experienced, some of the things that I do to motivate myself and how I go about things. In this video, I also want to talk about some of the mental side of things, right? Some of the things that discourage me and how I go about it. And I'm sure that if you are a beginner developer just like myself, or even, not so much of a beginner, these are some issues that you probably face as well. Now, one of the issues that I face a lot, and that really hurts me, is for all of us who are here building games. For most of us, we have some sort of a game that we played that we were inspired enough, so we decided, hey, we want to build some games, right? I'm not saying that all of us are probably crazy gamers. I know I'm not, for example, but I still love playing some games a lot. Um, and what I mean is that we all have that standout game which we grew up playing or something like that, which has a special place in our heart, and we want to make a game like that. So, for example, for me, I love playing RPGs, right? Action, strategy type situations. And whenever I build something, and whenever I try to make something that's similar to that, I almost always fall short, right? Whenever I compare myself to something like Blizzard's Diablo, right? Or if I compare myself to Path of Exile, or if I compare myself to Skyrim or something like that. Um, and you know, naturally, you're probably thinking like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Of course, you're gonna fall short. You're just starting out, and those are huge games. And yes, I know that, right? The brain knows that, and yet every time you start off making something, you want to make something amazing and beautiful that just wows everyone, right? And and when you're not able to do that, it kind of hurts. And that's what I want to talk about. Um, Look, those games, those big, huge games, right? Those titles, they're made by teams of hundreds and thousands of people sometimes. Those games are made by companies usually which are multi-million, in some cases, billion-dollar companies, right? If you look at Blizzard, for example. They have some of the greatest, designers, developers, animators, and so much more when you look at the business side of things. So to compare yourself to them is just a little bit unfair. Having said that, what I do encourage people to do is, you don't go out, and what I personally do is I don't maybe try to make the whole complete game always, right? But instead, I try to make these little sandboxes where I try to implement some of the features and try and see what I can do with them, right? So, for example, I have a little sandbox over here, which, if my computer allows, so this was just me, fooling around with Unity's AI and, their nav mesh agent. You already see a little NPC creeping up here, and she's just got some waypoints. Ideally, she should stop at the end or somewhere in between, do some little idle animation, then go on. But that's not a real big problem. We've already looked at animations and things in one of our other tutorials, and that's certainly not a big problem. It was just me fooling around with waypoints and things like that. I also wanted to experience click to move. Earlier on, I implemented some click to move in one of my other projects, which I haven't really shown on the channel, but that wasn't exactly pathfinding related. So that was, not using nav mesh agent. So over here we've got pathfinding. It goes around, right? If there's an obstacle in the way, then it seems to find the ultimate or the best shortest path in between those 2 points. And that was, I thought, pretty cool. Even though I feel like, in a proper game, I might have to write my own little algorithms for the AI, but I think certainly the nav mesh agent is still very powerful for beginners like us to just quickly, out of the box solutions. So this was just like just me testing things. Furthermore, if I come over here, if you played these sort of games, then whenever you click on an NPC, then you expect certain behavior, and in this case, it is that she turns around and she looks at me, and at this point, I would maybe show some sort of a dialogue box or something like that, where she's telling me about some sort of quest or things like that. And I have another, basically a sandbox where I'm working on dialogues and how they work and how I can set them up. I don't think I have that one open at the moment, though. I have one more still in which I was basically making a combat sandbox with a click to move model. Some of you who've been following me might have already seen my Ludum Dare project. If you haven't, go ahead and look at the gameplay video for that one. I'm not going to play this one because since then I've changed many things, and at the moment there are no monsters. But this is just kind of like the same level in which I created a a combat sandbox. This was not a click to move, but this was a what do you call it? A joystick control. And there were monsters here, and there were pickups on the way, and you had to smash the monsters. You had to go all the way around and up here, and over here there was a big bad boss, and you had to kill him, and then there was some loot over here, something like that. It was just a small instance. So I hope you get the idea of what I mean by making a sandbox, right? Also in the process, I also learned some level design, right? Of course, these assets, I'm not a designer, so these were paid assets that I bought. I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of the purchase. I think they're really high quality ones, and with the fog and everything like that, I think the environment looks pretty cool, right? Even though I don't really want to be a designer. If I want to make something beautiful, then I have to spend and invest some time in getting, even with these little blocks, it's not always easy to make a coherent looking environment, and I felt I did that. This is another example of a sandbox. I have others here, right? For example, these days I'm playing this game called PUBG, Players Unknown Battleground, I believe is the full name. No one really calls it by that. And after that, I decided that I want to try something like that, right? I decided I want to make some sort of a first-person, third-person shooting game. And maybe I can show you how that turned out if my computer allows. So I'm going to mute the audio and I'm going to hit play. There is some nice little audio in the background, but that's irrelevant right now. So, alright, so we've got our little character, which is lagging a lot. I apologize, guys, simply because, yeah, I'm recording the screen and this is inside the Unity editor. It does not lag at all if I play the executable. So we've got our little character, and he can move, and he can, go right and left, and if I hold down right click, he aims. I know the hand looks a little bit off, but you can aim up and down, excuse me, and this is using a concept called inverse kinematic in Unity. It's a concept which I still want to get better and better at because I think it's really very powerful. And then there is some sort of shooting here, so something like that. There's some sort of burst fires and bullets falling down, and lastly, if there's a reload animation as well. Again, all of this stuff, much unlike all of my other things, they're made of free assets and so on and so forth. This is again an example of a sandbox, right? This is not a complete game, but just me trying to see what I can do with limited amounts of resources, right? As I said, those big companies have these, have proper special made characters. They've got specialized animations. They've got special coherent equipment and models, and that just fall in place together, But I don't have that. So it's just me preparing for if and when I ever get in that sort of a situation, and at the same time learning just basic game development concepts, right? So this is just another example. What else can I show you? We have a little third-person tutorial going on our channel, which looks something like this. And be sure to check that one out as well. So we have a little guy, we have an enemy, he's chasing us, there's some AI. Again, an example of just some things that we're trying to do. At the moment, I'm working on a ranged attack for this guy, so look out for that tutorial very soon, hopefully. So I hope you get what I mean by that, guys. I think it's very important that instead of maybe creating complete huge games like the ones that we play on console and things like that, it's far more important for us to work on small individual components of those games and trying to perfect those, right? Melee combat, for example, is not that easy, right? If you want to make something really scrappy, then you can do it really quickly. But if you want to make something really believable, then I have so far not been very successful, right? I've implemented melee attack in click to move. I've done it in joystick, And so far, I've honestly not been very happy with either of them. Yes, they work. I can make you believe that they work when I show you in the video, but they just feel clunky and unreal. They don't feel anything like Diablo or Path of Exile or anything. And and that's what I mean. So you got to keep on working, right? And when you keep on working, then, for example, this game right here is called Lava Temple. This is a complete game which is live on the iOS. Now, as you're beginning out, you have to, it's important that you restrict the scope of your game. So, I mean, I like building these little components, but this is an example of a complete game that I built. I'm really proud of this game. Um, and it's also doing quite well, thankfully, on the iOS store. A lot of people are downloading and so on and so forth, which is really, really a proud moment. And this is a very simple game. I've made a couple of videos about this game, so be sure to check those out. But you notice how I am restricting the scope of the game to just simple jump motion and game over, one touch, one tap sort of things, because these are kind of things which actually a single person can do. Right? If you look at the games like Flappy Bird, or maybe some sort of endless runner like Temple Bird or Temple Run or something like that, even though Temple Run is obviously made by a huge team, Unity makes it easier to make something similar to that on your own, making it look reasonably professional, right? In fact, Unity even has their own little example of an endless runner. I can't remember what it was, something called Dash cat, with a cat as your character. So they're just showing you ways in which you can make a professional game, basically. So check that one out as well. And this is an example of a complete game, right? I have a couple of complete games. I've shown you some of my other games as well, which are complete, like the Crazy Cabbie one. I recently finished another game on the Kids Learning Alphabets game. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that, guys. It's really important for us to not get discouraged. Simply because the people who we're comparing ourselves with, you have to compare yourself to, people of the same level, right? If you compare yourself to a multi-billion-dollar company, you're always gonna lose, no matter how good you get. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that. To that end, what I'm also trying to say is that it's always a good idea to work with people, especially if you can find people who are good at other things that you're not particularly good at. For example, if you find someone who's, willing to work on art, or if you know someone who's great with music or something like that, that's really great, because then, you guys don't have to worry about, the developers don't have to worry about the art style, and the artists don't have to worry about the development style, and it just works really fluidly like that. And I encourage you guys to look out for people like that, and feel free to drop a comment below if you're good at, for example, art or something, And I would love to get in touch with you maybe, and we could make some cool little fun project. And that would be a great learning curve for you as well as me. Feel free to drop a comment for other people who are maybe looking at this video as well, and it will be a great little opportunity for you to maybe get in touch with someone who's maybe at the same level, right? It's really important whenever you're forming a team that you find someone who's at a similar or same level, simply because if the level of difference between the teammates is just too much, then it's not going to be very fruitful. It might slow down one person, and it might be too beneficial for the other, but something like that. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I want to say for this video. Do not get discouraged by these huge games, and rather use that as a motivation, and try and perfect some of these cool, crazy dynamics, and just show off what you can do, and keep on working and building, and things will happen. Alright, so that's all I wanted to say for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and so on and so forth.